From tax authorities chasing you down to a career change from hell, here are some mistakes that cost tennis players millions. There's a reason they say never believe a politician's promises. Well, Henri Leconte learned this the hard way. When he was done with tennis and was finally putting an end to a remarkable career, he did something he probably still regrets to this day. He followed the advice of Nicolas Sarkozy. He was the president of France at the time, and was the one who introduced him to Jacques Hille. This guy said he was gonna take care of his finances. But did that happen? Oh no. It turned out that the ex-president's buddy was a crook. Would you trust a politician? Heck no. And that's how Henri's bad luck started. One day he received a phone call from a lawyer, and he told him he has nothing left. So that crook left with millions of his money, and he was still stealing. The audacity! In fact, he'd been stealing for years, little by little, draining Henri's bank account without him suspecting a thing. There was nothing Henri could do anymore. He was done for, and he was completely broke. His only mistake? Trusting a politician. But to be fair, if you can't trust the president of your country, who can you trust? Maybe it's never a good idea to trust any politician. At least now the player knows how to tread around them. This next player didn't make this mistake though. Her fault was not trusting anyone. Yet she still ended up broke. Catherine Tanvir's comeback after the fall wasn't as successful as you'd think. You wouldn't think something like this could happen to her. She was doing pretty well for herself and was the world number 20 in singles in 1984 and number 16 in the doubles in '86. Wondering what happened? Well, she had enough money saved, so she decided to end her sporting journey. Cool, right? If you've got enough money, who wants to work for the rest of their life? But then again, Catherine had always faced huge personal problems. She had a complicated family relationship and was a closeted homosexual. Back then, I don't have to tell you what a huge deal that was. And once she put away the racket, the French woman started suffering from depression. She even isolated herself, living off the JSA, aka Job Seekers Allowance, in her mother's flat. Man, that must have sucked. On top of that, she had made a huge mistake during her career. She hadn't paid any taxes. And you know what that means? The tax authorities were after her. And they were demanding a whopping 700,000 euros. That was all the money she'd earned in 2 decades. She'd planned on retiring with all that money, but that didn't work out for her. And well, she went broke. What's even worse is that she tried to commit suicide after her failure, but fortunately, bounced back and found a new career in writing. At least she had her mother's flat to be depressed in. Our next one wasn't so lucky. Arantxa Sanchez's family took everything from her. I'd say those are some family members from hell right there. Be careful. You can win all the Grand Slam tournaments, win 4 medals for your country at the Olympics, and even earn $45 million in prize money, be the best player in the world for many years, but even that isn't enough to prevent you from going broke. Arantxa was sentenced to pay the Spanish tax authorities 3.5 million euros in fine. Oh yeah, imagine that! She'd avoided paying her taxes from 1989 to 1993. This is a pretty common issue. Pay your taxes, guys! An impossible sum of money to pay, she'd said at the time. The reason? Her father and her brother. With help from a lawyer, they stole everything from her. Who'd want enemies if you've got family members like that? She filed a complaint for embezzlement and fraudulent administration, but nothing came of it. They left her without anything. And she now has debts with the tax authorities. Even her properties are worth less than her brother's. The worst thing ever, her brother earned way less money than her during his life. Imagine having such bad luck. Everyone she met was out to get her, guys. This next one didn't have the same problem convincing family members. Instead, she was her own worst enemy. Patty Schneider's bad choices broke her. One of her coaches wrote something cruel about her. He said she's a really good person, but the woman never makes a good decision. 9 out of 10 times, her decisions sucked. Ouch! That must have stung for sure. Cruel they may be, but they're not far from the truth. After earning more than $8 million, she retired. And then met the wrong people. First, it was an ex-member of the Church of Scientology, whom she loved against her will. Whatever that means. Well, according to her father at least. And then she started dating a private detective, who was hired by her own father. Then, after she missed her rent for a few months, she completely disappeared. Leaving a huge tab, Schneider was broke. And all her goods were put up for sale at an auction. After everything, she did reappear, and even went back to tennis in 2015, with a string of good results. A good decision at last. When talking about mistakes costing players millions, we can't possibly keep our next player off the list. Bjorn Borg's career change proved to be pretty dangerous. When he decided to retire, he had many ideas for his after-career. And after giving it a lot of thought, he decided to enter the fashion industry. Out of all of the options, this is what he decided to do. To top it all, he even invested a huge sum of money. Risky? I'd say so. But you know how not everyone is born an entrepreneur? That's exactly what happened to him too. Things didn't work out so well for him, and by the end of the 80s, the business was running low. Even the honest and loyal friends he had hired to run the company were cheating him out of money. They were using his fame to become rich and famous. And of course, they failed too. Then after a few years, the company went completely bankrupt. Coincidentally, the player was even banned from entering European casinos. In fact, he had to put up his trophies for sale. So yeah, things took a turn for the worst for this guy. His big mistake was thinking he could become a businessman. Come on, dude. He was a fairly good tennis player, but not everyone can be an entrepreneur. And he learned that the hard way. His bad luck ended though, and later his brand was bought for 13 million euros. He earned quite a share from that. So at least he was able to walk away with something. There's also another disastrous career change that we have to talk about. It all hit the fan when Goran Ivanisevic invested in real estate. And that's also your answer for, how do you lose 19 million euros without doing anything? This is a field that is crippled by corruption. For Ivanisevic at least, because in the real estate business, it's impossible to do anything without bribing people. The dude wasn't in any lobby or political party, and entering the real estate showed him how money-hungry the world was. He admitted that it was his fault. He entered a field where honesty didn't exist. Sharks. Sharks everywhere. And these predators were the reason why the most innocent player lost everything. His investments sunk like the Titanic. Tax evasions are mostly the reason for people losing their money. That and terrible people around them. So y'all need to be on the lookout always. That's all we got on the mistakes that cost tennis players millions. See you all in the next video.